for, man, people are like popping on, Sharron. They were waiting for you to, you've already got like 8 people on, 9 people, 10 people. Oh no, that's the seconds. Okay, so we're gonna start this over. No, we're not. I'll call you back. Okay, so my God, hopefully that, Christine, I hope you can edit that piece out. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm Jean Kuhn. Thanks for coming to another Milk Crate Moment. So excited to have you here today. And my guest today is Sharron Medley. And it's late in the day. You guys all know I get up bright and early. So I have my little boo-boo no there. All right, so Sharron, let me just introduce you for a little bit. And just based on what I know, Sharron is one of the most kind-hearted people I've ever met, right? Wow. She just touched my heart when I first met her. She's always so sweet, so calm, so peaceful. I just loved having her in the group that we were in. And to find out Sharron's a pastor, so go figure, right? That one of the things is you're a pastor, so oh my gosh, why wouldn't you be sweet and adorable and loving and all of the other things that go with it, correct? Yeah. So I'd like to welcome you and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Jean. I was so excited to be here with you today.
Well, hopefully, the good news is nobody was on live to see me screw up. And hopefully with the magic of editing, that will never be seen. Just saying. So, all right.
No worries.
So Sharron, how I like to start every podcast is if you would share your Milk Crate moment.
Well, Jean, my Milk Crate moment was a biggie was in 2018. I was a minister at the time. As a matter of fact, I was actually studying to be ordained again. And I had a ministerial project that I was required. Well, I thought I was required, but that's another story, right? To complete in order to complete this program. And so I was supposed to work this project with my church. And the minister at the time said, absolutely not. No. You're not doing it, not teaching, was to teach classes and have workshops and seminars and all of that. And I thought it was a go, but it was a no. Oh. And so that then affected how am I going to finish this if I can't work this within the church, right?
Right.
And then we had a little problem, and she kind of nailed, I want to call it it's a Milk Crate moment. It was like a nailed you to the cross kind of moment that made me cry. And so I had a decision to make. Do I want to stay here, right? Or go out on my own? Now, for me, leaving a church, oh my God, is so saddening and painful, because when I go to a church, I work, right? I work. I'm on committees. I was singing in the choir. I was on the board, president of the board, all of those things. And singing for me is my conversation with God, right? So to make that decision to leave was quite painful. But I had to do it because I had to figure out how to do what I needed to do to get this ordination done, right?
Sure.
And so I wrote a letter. and Jean, yeah, I'm sweet and all that, but there's that little thing, that little lady that lives in the basement downstairs, right?
We know her as Sharron.
Yeah, Sharron, right? And so as I typed this letter, it's like, okay, no, you're professional. Don't get emotional. Just say you're leaving, right? And I cried through the entire letter. So I sent a letter to the minister. I sent one to the board. I sent one to the choir, right? And then I was done. And then I was down, Jean, for a month or two, right? I couldn't do anything because I had also been laid off from my job.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I was laid off in February, and then I left my church in June.
Okay. You had a lot of things going on.
Right. So it's, what am I going to do? So then my sister, my elder sister, I don't know if she's on or not, but I'm telling this story anyway. She says, "Oh, you left. And so now you have to find another church." And I said, "Well, what other church would that be?" And she's like, "I don't know. You could try this one." I'm like, "Nope, not doing it." And then she says, "Oh, you could go to this one." I'm like, "No, I'm not doing it." She's like, "Well, how about this one?" I'm like, "No, I'm not doing it." And then she says, "Well, you got to start all over because they wanted you to do it this way. And now you got to do it this way. You got to go back to what the board said." And I said, "You know what? I don't have to do anything. I'm not doing it." Do you know? So I'm the youngest, she's the eldest. And I have never, except for maybe one other occasion in 60 plus years, have I done that. Right. So then the next question was, well, what are you going to do? So I had to pray. I had to ask God because I know this was something that was given to me by God. Spiritual Lifesavers was in my heart by that time, even though in the beginning I didn't want to do it. Right.
Uh-huh.
But now it has become a part of me. And you're telling me that now I have to give it away, give it up, and do it differently based on what somebody else thinks? No, no. So then the question was, what do you do? Well, I guess so. A friend of mine said, be a renegade. It's like you just be a renegade preacher out there on your own, right?
Uh-huh.
Sending messages every day. I've been sending those messages since 2018, really 2017, every single morning,
Oh,
right?
uh-huh.
For all those years. And then a friend of mine came to me for coaching who knew, right? And she's like, "Oh, this is what you need to do." But leaving my church, standing up to authority, right? Because you're taught to do what you're told to do. And that's been going on since I was born. So I was down for 2 months in a state of depression. I could not, I didn't try to look for work. It's like, what am I going to do? I don't want to work for anybody else. Right. But if I don't do something quick, something bad's going to happen. And so I started looking for for people that could help me to make this into something bigger. Right. But getting over that moment of, I got rejected by a company, right? We divorced. Then I divorced my church. And now you're telling me I got to divorce this and do it the way somebody else wants me to do it. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Sure. Well, that's actually really interesting that how things all happen at one time, right? And I
Yeah.
know June to February to June is not right at the exact same time, but it was enough to throw you off your game a little bit,
Oh,
correct?
yeah. Yeah, it did. It really did. It really did because, and I remember when I got laid off, remember we had that big snowstorm in February of 2018?
I can barely remember last week, Sharon. No, I don't remember. I'd have to go search a news story or something.
So I can remember sitting in my kitchen, looking out into the backyard with the drapes pulled and crying,
Mm.
right? Because now I don't have a job. What am I going to do? That was part of how I defined myself, right?
Sure.
And I must have cried for a couple of hours. And then I said, you know what? You need to get up. You need to put some makeup on and you need to take a picture because this is a momentous day. Because from this day forward, you're going to work for yourself. And so then I'm arguing with myself, Jen. It's like, well, how in the world am I going to do that? Well, we don't know that yet, but let's just do it. How about it?
Oh, that's so funny. So now, Sharon, were you a pastor already before 2018?
Yes, you know what? My sister actually, and this was a harder ordination than it was with the organization that was ordained by last year before last. It was harder working with her. So I actually started the journey in 1999.
Okay.
And
Oh,
she started she was senior pastor of a church. And I just went to sing in the choir. I hadn't planned on doing anything else. But I was in a class with her called Great Dramas of the Bible. And we were in the chapter about the Israelites wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. Guess how old I was? 40.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sitting in the class and tears are streaming down my face. I'm a big crybaby, by the way.
Me too.
Streaming down my face. And I'm saying, Lord, are you talking to me? Is my life a wilderness? Have I been wandering for 40 years? Right.
Wow.
And so I said, well, what do I do? And the answer was she started this teacher counselor intensive program. And I said, well, you know what? If I can get this information in an orderly manner, maybe I can change my own life. I wasn't thinking about changing anybody else's. I'm not going to lie. This was for purely selfish reasons, right? To get my life on the right track. So I started in 99. She ordained me in 04.
Okay.
Yeah, 2004. And at that time, I had 2 study groups. I had one that met at our home on Wednesday nights and also one at work with like 15, 16 people from my job. Yeah, yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
So, what would you say? How have you turned all of that around?
By meeting wonderful people, knowledgeable people, having angels in my life that I did not realize. And one of them, and I'm going to say it, is Lynn Lionhood, because in all the years that I have known her, Lynn has kept up with me, right? She'll send me a message on Messenger. She'll tell me how wonderful I am. And when I went through that period after meeting you, where our mother made her transition, my brother, when they left, that hit me really, really hard,
Yeah.
right? Really, really hard. I didn't realize how bad it was. And then Lynn kept messaging me. She kept reaching out to me. And then you reached out to me, right? For that speaker's, right, influence. And I said, oh, you know what? When you said it, I said, I need to go, right? I need to go. I need to get out of the house. I need to be around people. And that was the beginning of me coming back.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, it
You had
was.
that was a hard year for you, right?
Oh,
That was
yeah, it
almost
was.
a year, probably at least a year,
It
right?
was a year. Yeah.
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 Between
It was a year.
COVID and everything else, I know that was a really difficult year for you. You
Yeah.
lost a lot of people during that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But then I met you. Oh my God.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, yeah. And so then we're on the 5 a.m. call, right?
Mhm.
And being around those powerful, loving, kind people every morning at 5 o'clock. I mean, it's just wonderful. And it's a awesome way to start my day. And now I'm working with you in this group, and that's how things turn around, right?
Mhm.
Listening to other entrepreneurs, because you get to a point where you think you're the only one going through whatever it is that you're going through.
I
But that
just
was
said
not.
that. I did a podcast right before this one, and I said
Mhm.
that is the biggest problem is that entrepreneurs think when something happens, right? When they're feeling down, they
Yeah,
feel like every other entrepreneur out there is killing it, right?
yeah, yeah,
And they're the only ones, and they don't understand why they're the only ones and why this is happening to them.
yeah,
And in truth, it's happening to 99% of the entrepreneurs at the exact same time. But a lot of people can handle it differently,
yeah.
and they just choose to either not talk about it, which
Mhm.
I think is a mistake because that's really, really what I love the milk crate moment for is because I think that there's so much to learn in the what's the word I'm looking for? In the oh my
What
gosh.
community like?
No, in the when we're suffering, right?
Mhm,
And we
mhm.
think we're the only one, and we find out we're not in the vulnerability of it, I guess is what I'm trying to
Exactly.
say, right?
Yeah,
When in the vulnerability, if you're willing to be vulnerable and understand that this is a temporary thing and
yeah.
every entrepreneur goes through it and it's
Mhm.
cyclical, right?
Yeah.
This is a cycle, and it's up and down all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So is your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have your everything's great, or you get a divorce, or everything's great and you lose a parent, right?
Yeah.
It's life. And
Yeah.
they don't understand that this is just a phase that we're going through.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't know about you, but I've probably had more of those phases than I've had successes.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, the successes were big enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they came to keep me going, right?
Yes. Yes.
But I'm also not a quitter, right?
Yeah.
Not a quitter. So
Yeah.
when I had them, they were bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I had them, they were bad, or at least I thought they were at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look back, right? Look back now. Let's talk about that for just a moment. Look back to where you were in that time of down. Does it seem as awful now as it did then?
No.
No, it
No,
doesn't,
it doesn't.
right?
And you know what? It seems like it's when I was in seminary, my mentor and teacher, her name was Reverend Mary Tumpkin. She gave us an assignment to trace the call on our life. She said, because if God called you, you'll see it, right? You'll see events in your life, and and you'll also know what you were called to do,
Mhm.
right? It's the same thing with entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
right? Spiritual Lifesavers started out as something that, oh my God, I was like a little brat. I don't want to do this. Why do I have to do this? Why are you making me do this? But that had to happen because, Jean, I eventually found out that if things had worked out the way they were supposed to, I wouldn't have had to, but I had to,
Mhm. I
right?
get it,
So,
right? Some
yeah,
of us are stubborn, Sharon, right?
yeah, I
We get
know.
the call. What does Oprah said? She says, first you get the whisper, right?
Yeah,
And then you get the tap, and
then
then
you
you
get the
get the
tap.
2x4.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's like that for almost everyone, that
Yeah.
they don't listen to that spiritual inner self,
Hmm.
and because we think we know better.
Exactly. But
Yeah,
we don't.
we don't.
We don't. And now that I'm in this phase, I mean, I wake up and I'm happy and I listen more, right? So after our 5 a.m. call, then I meditate, pray, write the message, and then move on. I use that sheet you gave us on, how to plan our day. And I have my trusty timer here that I'm using as well. But now I see better, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see better. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be, you just said it and it's like new words that hit my brain as it, or maybe I was just thinking it while you were talking. I don't, if we could just do it when we feel the calling, if we
Yes.
would just surrender
Yeah.
and do it.
And
But,
do it.
but as entrepreneurs, we're so stubborn
Yeah.
and we think we know best. And it's like that, it can't be that easy. And yet all things with God are
Yeah.
easier, right?
Yeah.
All things with God are easier.
Yeah.
But why don't we do it, Sharon? Answer that, my
Because
friend, my
you
pastor
said it.
friend.
Right. Because we think we know and we're not used to. So that word surrender bothers people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because they think they're giving up something. But just like in that book, The Dream Giver, when God brings ordinary to sanctuary and says, "Give me back your dream," he does the same thing. He did the same thing in the parable that we did. Well, what do you mean give it back? Why would I give it back? I can't believe you're asking me to give it back. But then when he thought about it, it was like, oh, but when I gave this and when I did this, I got this. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what I had to realize. Because, see, it's easy to write all that stuff that I write in the morning and tell people what to do. It's even harder to take the advice myself.
You're in it. Right there with you. Right there with you. And that's interesting because that's why we teach everybody does this. They teach what they need to learn,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is so funny.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And you would think it would stop, but it doesn't. Like you says, it's cyclical,
Hmm.
where you kind of go up and down. But now I was given an analogy about an airplane, right? That it takes, when you're on the plane and the plane is going down the runway and it's taking off and you feel that resistance, but then that plane gets in the air, right? And then it's smooth sailing. And the guy said, but then we let the plane land, right? As entrepreneurs, when we let the plane land, now you got to go through that whole thing again, right? To get the plane in the air. So now I want to keep that plane in the air, Jean.
Well, I think that's a really good thing to do. You mentioned it like 3 or 4 times, so let's talk about it. The 5 a.m. call.
Yeah.
Which I never talk about that. I've never talked about that on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So the 5 a.m. call is a call that I started in 2020 when the shutdown started. I actually started it March 1st of 2020 with 2 clients, and we decided that we wanted to get up early every morning because I saw a real connection between in 2019, December of 2019, I had my best year ever. And I saw a real connection between getting up between 3:30 and 4 every morning. I was just waking up and I wasn't tired. So I just got out of bed and I started working. And I saw an incredible correlation between me getting up early and my revenue in December of 2020. Normally my revenue was like usually down for December, right?
Okay.
Best month of my life, best December of my life, right? Because I was getting up, I was taking action, I was doing my money making revenue strategies every day.
Yeah.
And two other my clients joined me for doing that. And then when the shutdown started, when the shutdown came, and entrepreneurs were literally terrified that they were not going to be able to make money, that they were afraid, they were afraid that they already weren't making enough money. So what happens when we take away the money that these small businesses are making? What's going to happen to them? And I just put it out there that I was going to do some training for people for free, for people who needed to just know that it was going to be okay. I knew it was going to be okay because I knew it was only going to be a 2-week shutdown, right? I knew it, right? So I knew it was going to be okay. And we were going to get through this, but they didn't know that. They didn't have that confidence that overwhelming confidence that I have.
Yeah.
And so I actually did that for 2 years. I actually did that event for that free training every day for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
While we were recovering. Wasn't 2 weeks, it was 2 years. And I was looking for more value to add to them. Like helping them was not enough for me. It's like, what else can I help you with? Oh my gosh, what if you could get up early? And what if you could be on a 5 a.m. call with us and talk about business at 5 o'clock in the morning when your hair is all messed up?
Exactly.
And you come looking like this, right? And you come to the call looking like that, and some people just show up at 5 o'clock in their bathrobe, right?
Yeah.
They're literally climbing out of bed to be there in the morning. And I realized the value of that. And I thought that's true value that I could give to them as well. So I started just inviting any entrepreneur that wanted to be part of that. And it's really funny, over the 2 years, we've had hundreds of people visit us. But what do we normally have any given day? We normally have between, I would say, 10 and 15 people, no more.
Yeah.
Right? It's so crazy how number one, how when people went back to work, they went back to their old habits. Do you know that? Right?
Yeah.
They went back to their old habits, sleeping in, not doing the work that they were supposed to do. Where I feel like they were really on track at the beginning of March of 2020 when the lockdown started, because all of the people who came and stayed daily and came back every single day made money. They learned to make more money than they were ever making before. So if anybody wants to join our 5 a.m. call, show up with Sharron. Show up with me. Listen, I guarantee you I don't have lipstick on, and I guarantee you this is what my hair looks like in the morning.
Yeah, and what I do is just like run my fingers through it, and
Well, that's our rule, right? We can show up any way we want. Sometimes I showed up this morning, nobody would know it, but I showed up in my pajamas this morning.
Hey,
So, right.
I have mine on too, Jane, but I just put that, I have a sweater
Mhm.
on over them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have people who don't even, well, we won't go there, but
yeah, we want.
we won't go there. But listen, every entrepreneur, it's free, and it's every entrepreneur is
Yeah,
welcome to
yeah.
come and do that. And how do you get into that? Right? How do you get into that? You just email me. Listen, Sharon, I'm gonna put your email address here. And
Okay.
then I'm gonna put my email address here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say, reach out if you would like an invite, not that you even need one,
Yeah.
to the 5 a.m. Central
Yeah.
Standard Time, right?
Central time. That's key.
5 a.m. Call,
Yeah.
daily,
It's
daily
awesome.
call. And isn't it funny? Even you missed a couple days this week.
I
Right?
did. I was so sleepy, right? I raised my head up and I went, oh, 5 more minutes. And then, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that was our
It
super.
never happens for me. There's never any time that I'm so sleepy. Like, I'm so grateful. Like, I was out of town, and I was so grateful that Lynn Lionhood ran that meeting
Yeah,
for my conference too, right? She ran the meeting for me. But yeah, because there's days that I'm tired too, right? It's like
yeah,
we don't want to. It's hard to do it every single day, but I will tell you that I would rather do it than not do it.
exactly. Me
Yeah.
too. Me
All
too.
right, we have gone on way longer than I usually go. Thank
Ah!
you so much. Listen, one last question. I always ask this: what is a piece of advice that you would give to an entrepreneur who they find when they find themselves struggling? What would you say to them?
I would say to reach out to someone that can help them, number one, right? No matter, and not to judge by how it looks, that things always get better, right?
Mhm.
And never quit, never give up. Keep
Never give
going.
up.
Yeah.
Right. There's
Never.
no plan B. I don't know about you, Sharon, but I don't have a plan B.
I don't have a plan B either.
So
I
this,
did try. I tried one, and I think God said, "See, I told you," and it was a horrible experience, and so I
oh, that's
didn't
so
try it
funny.
again.
I heard it, right? I heard it, and I'm like, thank you. I don't want a plan B. The thought of having. Oh wait, I didn't even share this. Let's show this. Right? I
No.
wrote it down, but I didn't share it. The thought of ever having a job again and answering to somebody else and
Mm-mm.
having to be told what to do.
Uh-uh.
I I'm
No.
not bossy, Sharon, but I am the boss.
Exactly.
And
See, I told you I've got that card on my desk that says, "Hey, you're not bossy. You are the boss." Here it is, right here.
yep, but,
Right?
yep,
I keep it on my desk.
yeah, it's a great card.
Like,
Great card.
I like telling people what to do. And
Me
I'm a
too.
good, right? When I had a job, I was a dadgum good employee, right? I always got promoted 2 and 3 times. So it's time to do that and work that hard for myself.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because you will never get rich working for somebody else.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Sharon, thank you so much for being here. I just
Thank
adore
you.
you. I'm so happy that you agreed to be on my podcast, and
Yeah.
let's go out and kill it, right?
Kill it.
I've got a countdown calendar because I want to remember how many days do we have left? 20
Oh,
days
yeah.
left in the
Oh,
year.
wow.
20 days, 7 hours, 32 minutes, and 7 seconds,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you better make the most of all of them. Okay?
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
I will see you in the morning at 5 a.m.
See you in the morning at 5 a.m.
Bye.
Bye.